Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Ian Williams, and I am your host, facilitator today for today's webinar From Stressed to Success Practical Strategies for Workplace Resilience. And as we look to get started, I just wanted to share a little bit about myself. I'm a Master of Arts in Organizational Psychology, which basically is closely related to organizational development, study of human behavior in organizations. That also breaks down to just the study of how to make sure that work does not suck. Also, I'm happy to be a Maxwell Leadership Team certified member, affiliated with a gentleman by the name of John Maxwell. And he is a guru in the space of leadership, written over 100 books on the subject over the years, decades really. Um, his principles serve as a foundation of a lot of what we do here at Lead Well. Speaking of Lead Well, I am the president and co-founder of Lead Well Strategic Consulting, and I'm currently a doctoral candidate. Yay! Lots of hard work, but gratifying, satisfying work. So that's a little bit about me, but we're not here to focus on me today. We're here to talk about how to go from being stressed to success, practical strategies for workplace resilience. So without further delay, let's go ahead and get into it. Of course, I'm excited to be here and to talk about this subject that affects all of us, workplace stress, right? It's no respect of person. I want to get into some of the objectives, right? Focus is to understand and manage workplace stress for better performance and well-being. So we'll talk about a bit about the science of stress and how it impacts performance. So for the nerdy among us like myself, we'll get into that a little bit and how it shows up day to day. Perhaps it'll give you some insight in how stress is impacting you. I will do a 3-minute reset technique. So I have the privilege of actually walking you through a technique that you can use and employ because it's so practical and so short. It could be you could use it anytime. Really, it's a way to reset your stress levels. We'll talk about a 4A model, which without context is 4 strategies to manage stress effectively. And we'll talk about multitasking and the role that it plays, whether it the positive or negatives, or if there's any. And lastly, we'll kind of land on our long-term resilience strategies, because not only do we want you to be able to deal with things in the moment, we also want you to build strength over time, build strength and resilience over time. So those are the goals of our webinar today. So if that's I'm excited to share this with you, and I hope that you're excited to dive in. First up, before we talk about managing it, before we talk about the quick reset, before we talk about the long term, let's talk a little bit about what's actually happening in our brains and our bodies when we experience stress. Question. And by the way, as a leadership coach and consultant, I like to ask a lot of questions. So please just prepare yourself for that. Have you ever been so overwhelmed at work that you couldn't think straight? Like, just so overwhelmed it was just hard to focus, so overwhelmed it was hard to gather your thoughts. In those circumstances, perhaps your heart was racing, your stomach was in knots. Yeah, that's pretty common symptom for me. My stomach kind of turns into knots when I'm very stressed. You felt totally exhausted, even though you weren't physically active. You ever just you show up, you feel fine, but then the stress, like stress, overwhelming stress comes on, and all of a sudden you're just zapped. I'm here to tell you that that's not just in your head, it's your body reacting to stress chemistry, right? I want you to think about it. Just drop a one-word answer on your notepad if you have one, or your sticky note. What's your biggest stress symptom? Just something for you to consider personally. Some examples are anxiety, headaches, fatigue, brain fog, and just general frustration. Just I can't get my brain is short circuiting, right? So just jot that down if you have a sticky note or a notepad in front of you. Just take note for your personal reference. The truth is, the stress is your body's natural survival mechanism. and we all have it. It's designed to keep us safe. When our brains perceive a threat, even if it's just a tough deadline or an overwhelming email inbox, it activates the fight, flight, or freeze response. So, what's really happening? Your amygdala, the emotional center of your brain, detects stress and it sounds this alarm, silent to us, right? Somewhat. This triggers our bodies to release cortisol and adrenaline, both stress hormones that prepare you to react quickly, right? That's where the fight or flight comes in, um, right? So your heart rate speeds up, muscles tense, digestion slows down, right? Because your body is prioritizing survival. You may feel jittery, irritable, or mentally foggy because your brain is hyper focused on reacting rather than thinking critically. So here's an example. Think about a time maybe you were stressed for a big presentation. Your heart pounds, your hands feel clammy. You might forget what you're going to say. That's because your brain is prioritizing survival, not creativity or deep thinking. So here's where we can kind of help put ourselves in a little better position when it comes to dealing with this mechanism or managing it. Short bursts of stress are normal and even helpful. They keep us alert and motivated, right? Meaning short, where we're not stuck in that stress cycle. But when stress becomes chronic, meaning stuck, right? Another word to say is struck, right? Stuck, meaning your brain stays in high alert mode for too long, it starts to wear you down, right? So we're not meant to stay. It's meant to give us bursts. We're not meant to be in survival mode constantly. Long term stress, in fact, shrinks your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision making, problem solving, and emotional regulation. That's why under stress, even small decisions can feel overwhelming. The cortisol, what I mentioned earlier, that stress hormone, it increases inflammation and it weakens your immune system over time, which is why you might get sick more often when you're stressed. That's because your body is consolidating all resources everywhere but in those places. Right? It's in strengthening your muscles, getting your body moving so you can fight or flight if you need to. When stress becomes chronic, it increases anxiety, irritability, and even burnout. You start feeling exhausted. Even when you get enough sleep, it's like you can't get enough motivation. Okay, second question. I want you to write down on your sticky note or pad if you're following along. How often do you feel like you're running in stress mode on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 meaning never, 10 almost always. The good news is that stress isn't permanent. Your body and brain are designed to recover if you give them the right tools. Your brain has this thing called neuroplasticity, meaning it can literally rewire itself to handle stress more effectively. The more we practice stress management techniques, the better our brains get at calming down faster. Simple techniques like controlled breathing, mindfulness, being present and aware of how you're feeling and what you're sensing, and resilience building habits in general can turn off the stress response and shift your brain from survival mode back into focus and clarity mode. So that's exactly what we're going to practice next with the 3-minute reset techniques that helps your brain and body calm down in real time. Yeah, I hope you guys appreciate. We got a little. We're gonna drop into nature real quick, adjust these volumes so that it doesn't quite overcome my voice. There we go. So I want you to take a moment to guide your. I just want to take a moment to guide you through this simple exercise. This is a quick stress relief technique that you can use anytime during the workday to regain focus and calm. And it's not a work specific thing either. Anytime you're feeling stressed, whether you're at your desk, in a meeting, or feeling overwhelmed, This can help you reset your mind and your body. The great thing is you don't need any equipment. All you need is yourself and a willingness to try it. If you're comfortable, I want you right now to find a relaxed position in your chair, feet flat on the floor, hands resting in your lap. Before we begin, I want you to take a moment to notice how you're currently feeling today. Are your shoulders tense? Is your mind racing? This is not about a judgment. This is about just your personal awareness. This is actual mindfulness in action, right? Taking a moment to check in with yourself. How are you feeling? How are you feeling physically? How are you feeling mentally? Where are your emotions? So let's focus on the breath. Breathing deeply is one of the fastest ways to signal your nervous system that you're safe and in control. So this technique consists of a simple 4-4-4 breathing technique. And what I mean by that is we inhale for 4 seconds and hold for 4 seconds. Exhale for 4 seconds, then pause for 4 seconds before repeating, right? Okay. Again, that was we inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale 4 seconds, and pause for 4 seconds. All right, you got it? All right, let's begin. I'll guide you through it. Close your eyes if you're comfortable or keep them softly focused. Here we go. Inhale deeply through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now exhale slowly through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4. And pause. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. And pause. 1, 2, 3, 4. Final breath. Last time, deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale fully. 1, 2, 3, 4. And pause. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now gently bring your awareness back to the present. Notice how your body feels. Are your shoulders more relaxed? Has your heart rate slowed? Take a moment to appreciate this reset. This simple breathing technique is something you can do in just 3 minutes whenever you feel overwhelmed. It helps reset your nervous system, clear your mind, and bring you back to a state of focus. Try using this technique throughout your day before a meeting, after a stressful email, or even in the car before heading home. It's a simple yet powerful way to reclaim control over stress. Let me know how you're feeling if this worked for you. Now let's move on to our next strategy for building long-term resilience. Now that we've reset our stress response, let's talk about a framework you can use to manage stress before it overwhelms you. This is called the 4A model, and it provides 4 practical ways to handle workplace stress that consists of avoid, alter, adapt, and accept. Not every stressor can be controlled, but by choosing how we respond, we can regain a sense of power over our environment. Let's go through each one as we do. As we do this, I really want to just encourage you to think about which of these strategies you're currently using, it, whether you realize it or not, or what you could use, which one you might want to improve on. First up is avoid, which is all about reducing unnecessary stress, right? Not all stress is avoidable. Some of us, some of it comes from taking on too much, right? So not all stress is actually unavoidable, but some of it comes from taking on too much, not setting boundaries, or saying yes when we should say no. Avoiding unnecessary stress means learning when to step back. And one of the quotes that I remember from a mentor of mine, that I hold dear when it comes to avoiding stress, is learning to say no to something that could be good, beneficial, um, especially when it comes to work, right? Like it's good to take on a task. Saying no to whatever that might be uh, could and should mean saying yes to what matters most, right? And so that's kind of where you can set your boundary. That's what I take from that. Learning, figuring out what matters most to me, and being able to know when I'm being asked to do conflicts. So here's a different example. Let's say you have a coworker who always dumps last minute tasks on you. Avoiding stress might mean setting a clear boundary. I can't take on last minute projects without notice, right? It could also mean reducing distractions by silencing non essential notifications when focusing on deep work. All right, back to that notepad and sticky note. Think about your own workday. What's one stressor you could avoid by setting a boundary? Take a moment, reflect on that. Next is A for alter. Sometimes stress comes from situations that we can change, right? Earlier we were talking just moments ago we were saying some are unavoidable, right? So we have to address them one way or another. But sometimes stress can come from situations that we can change. If we speak up or make adjustments, altering a stressful situation could mean communicating your needs clearly, delegating tasks, or restructuring how you work. If a colleague's unclear communication is causing stress, for example, altering the situation could mean setting up a quick check in at the start of each project to clarify expectations. If an overwhelming workload is the issue, altering the situation could mean discussing workload distribution with your manager. On that notepad, sticky note of yours, what's one way you could change a stressful situation in your workplace? What could you do to alter it to better serve everyone involved, including yourself? Next is adapt. We can't always change our external circumstances. Seems like that's kind of how we're starting off each one, right? Things we have to be able to control the controllables, folks, but we can change how we respond to them. Adapting means shifting your mindset, adjusting your expectations, or reframing challenges as opportunities. So imagine you're dealing with a client who constantly changes their requests, whether this is an internal client or external client, depending on where you're seated within a role. Instead of letting frustration take over, you can adapt by expecting change and planning flexible deadlines up front. Adaptation also includes personal strategies like keeping a gratitude journal or reframing negative thoughts, right? So just being a little bit more flexible. So here's your next question. Write this down for your personal reflection. What's one way you could shift your mindset towards a stressful situation? Lastly is accept. Finally, some stressors can't be avoided, altered, or adapted to complete. They can't be avoided, altered, or adapted to completely. In those cases, the best approach is acceptance, choosing to stop fighting against things we can't change. Here's an example of that, right? I've been through this. If your company's going through major changes like restructuring, maybe they've been acquired and there's a lot of uncertainty. There's leadership shifts, like you got a new boss, or your boss that you had a good relationship with moved on somewhere else, and now you have to deal with the unknown of a new one. Resisting the change might only add stress. Accepting the situation doesn't mean giving up. It means focusing on what you can control, like maintaining a positive attitude or seeking opportunities within the change. Here's our final reflection question on this one. Think about a current stressor in your life. Does it fall? Which of these four categories does it most applies? Avoid, alter, adapt, or accept. The key takeaway here is that stress is not a one size fits all. Sometimes you need to avoid it. Sometimes you need to change it. Sometimes you need to adjust your mindset. And sometimes you just need to let it go. If you start applying even one of these strategies, you'll notice a big difference in how you manage workplace stress. Now, let's move on to a quick productivity hack that will help you reduce stress by working smarter instead of harder. Let's talk about one of the biggest contributors to workplace stress: simply trying to do too much at once. Have you ever had so many tasks on your plate that you felt completely overwhelmed? Maybe you started a report, checked your email, answered a message, and suddenly an hour passed, but you hadn't made any real progress on anything seemingly. We've all been there. The problem is that we've been trained to believe that multitasking is an efficient way to work, but research shows that it actually makes us less productive and more stressed. Here's why multitasking doesn't work. Every time you switch between tasks, your brain has to refocus. This is called context switching, and it takes up mental energy, draining your focus and increasing stress. Studies show that switching between tasks can reduce productivity by up to 40%. So here's our example. Imagine you're writing a report. It's important, or an important email, but you keep stopping to check messages or respond uh, on Slack or chat at work. Each time you switch your brain, each time you switch, your brain has to restart the process of composing your thoughts. Instead of finishing the email in 5 minutes, now it takes 15 minutes because of all the distractions. So, if we're honest with yourself, how often do you catch yourself multitasking? Take note. Always, sometimes, rarely. Be interesting to reflect on that. So, if multitasking is the enemy of productivity, then what's the solution? I might suggest to you this simple idea called time blocking. This is a method that helps you focus deeply on one task at a time without distractions. Instead of jumping between tasks, you schedule dedicated blocks of time for each important task throughout your day. During each block, you focus solely on one thing, ignoring emails, notifications, and distractions. Here's an example. Let's say you need to prepare a presentation, respond to emails, and attend a meeting. Instead of trying to juggle them all at once, you schedule a 45-minute deep work session for the presentation, followed by a 20-minute block to clear your inbox, and then focus fully on the meeting. This method allows you to get more done with less stress. Have you ever tried time blocking before? I wonder how that worked for you. Again, reach out and let me know. I want to challenge you to try this though. Try it today. Even if you just pick one task, right? Well, I'm not saying you got to start um, really big and schedule out your entire day or week, right? I just want you to choose one task. Set a timer for 30 to 45 minutes and focus on it without checking your email or notifications. See how much more productive you feel. For an even greater focus boost, you can pair time blocking with what we call the Pomodoro technique, which is working for 25 in 25-minute blocks, right? We work for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, then repeat. For some people, this really helps you stay energized and avoid burnout. But here, time blocking isn't just about work. It's not about working harder at all. Actually, it's about working smarter so you can get more done with less stress. If you start applying this, there's a good chance you'll feel more in control of your workload and less overwhelmed. So now let's move on to the final section: how to build long-term resilience against stress so you don't have to manage it but actively thrive. Managing stress in the moment is important, but if we want to stop stress from controlling our lives, we need to go deeper. That's where resilience comes in. Resilience isn't about avoiding stress altogether, that's impossible. It's about learning how to handle stress without burning out. The stronger your resilience, the quicker you bounce back from setbacks, pressure, and challenges. When you're feeling overwhelmed, I want you to consider what's your go-to coping mechanism. Take note of that. Is it exercise, venting to a friend, or eating ice cream? No judgment here, right? This is a no judgment webinar. It's all about your personal awareness. So let's talk mindfulness. Our four keys or pillars of resilience, right? First up is mindfulness. Resilient people don't less are more resistant to letting stress hijack their minds. They train themselves to stay present and focused, right? So you got to be able to own what you're feeling in order to manage it. Mindfulness is all about being present with yourself So just like we did the techniques and reflected on how you felt before our reset earlier and how you felt after. Where are you with things? Are you feeling anything physically? Any tension physically? Where are you emotionally? Where are you mentally? Are you present in the moment, or is your mind has your mind wandered on to the past or the future, or something that's stressing you out? Being mindful and learning how to be present with those feelings or whatever state of being you're in is actually a major key to being resilient and not allowing those emotions and that tension uh, basically backseat drive your your life. Mindfulness is simply can be also simply said to be pausing, breathing, and observing your thoughts instead of reacting to them. Right? Instead of letting your thoughts and your feelings provoke you, you observe them and say, "Oh, you know, what's up with that?" Maybe ask some questions. My better half, who happens to be a therapist, often says, become an investigator. Start interviewing those emotions and figuring out where they come from. It helps lower anxiety and improve decision making under pressure. Here's an example. A leader worked a leader that I worked with used to get overwhelmed before meetings. Now she takes 60 seconds before every meeting to close her eyes, breathe deeply, and set an intention for how she wants to show up. That small shift makes her more present and confident. Another chance for your personal reflection. What's one moment in your day where you could practice mindfulness? Maybe before meetings, during lunch, or even while waiting at a stoplight. Walking through the parking lot as you're walking into the building in the morning. Opportunities. Next is let's talk about exercise. We often treat stress like a mind problem, but stress lives in the body too. There's a book that we often reference in the human development space, mental health space, called "The Body Keeps the Score." Well, movement is one of the fastest ways to release built up tension and clear mental fog. Exercise reduces stress hormones and increases endorphins. That's why it works, right? Your brain's natural feel good chemicals, it increases them. Even just a 5-minute walk can help you reset your nervous system. In fact, some of the most successful people in the world schedule walking meetings because movement helps them think more clearly. If you're feeling stuck on a problem, try getting up and moving. It might give you the breakthrough that you need. Here's where I want to challenge you. For the next 7 days, try adding just 5 extra minutes of movement to your daily routine and see how you feel. Let's talk about sleep. It wasn't obvious, right? If you take nothing else from this webinar, remember this: sleep is your number one resilience tool. Without good sleep, stress hits harder, emotions feel bigger, and focus is hard to find. Studies show that sleep deprivation leads to increased cortisol. Remember that stress hormone I mentioned earlier? Reduced productivity and higher emotional reactivity. If you struggle with sleep, maybe you could try something like this. Set a wind down routine. I know this in the day of social media and phones, cell phones, smartphones, etc. This is not the easiest thing, but turn the screens off 30 minutes before bed. Dim the lights. Do something relaxing like reading or journaling. So, for your personal reflection, what's one thing that helps you get better sleep? Here's something interesting. Studies show that social connection is one of the biggest predictors of stress resilience. All right. So, where are we going? Connection. When we feel supported, stress has less power over us. It works because even a quick conversation with someone who gets you can lower stress level and boost mood. The problem, when we're stressed, we tend to isolate instead of reaching out. One of my coaching clients, for example, was struggling with burnout. And when we dug deeper, we realized he had stopped connecting with colleagues and friends just by setting up one social lunch per week. His stress levels dropped dramatically. So, if I can encourage you, think of one person you haven't connected with in a while, send them a quick message today. Just a simple, hey, thinking of you can go a long way. So here's the truth of the matter, where the rubber hits the road, as they say. Resilience isn't built overnight, but small intentional habits create long term change. Start by choosing one of these four pillars: mindfulness, movement, sleep, or connection, and commit to improving it this week. Before we wrap up, I'd love for you to just consider which of these four areas do you need to work on the most. Up next, as we wrap it up here, I'll share how you can get more tools to manage stress, including a free resource that will help you put these strategies into action. So let's quickly revisit what we've covered today. We explored how stress affects your brain and body. We did a 3 minute reset technique that I hope helped relieve some of that tension that's been stuck in your shoulders for the last several weeks. We talked about the 4A model: the avoid, alter, adapt, and accept, right? When it comes to stress, stress is impossible to avoid completely. So, how do we want to handle it? We talked about the simple productivity hack of time blocking, right? I don't expect this to be mastery to reach mastery level of this, but just try it out. Give it a go for 30 to 45 minutes. Turn off those notifications. Focus on that task and see how much more productive you are. And then we talked about the four long-term resilience strategies, which seem like they're very simple and common sense, but they make a huge difference. And it may not be surprising that not a lot of us are really paying attention to ourselves in those areas. The fact is, now that you've gone through this webinar with me, you now have tools to start taking control of stress, rather than letting it control you. And I want to make it easier for you to put these strategies into action. That's why I put together a free resource uh, for you. Um, a couple actually. I have the 4A model guide that you can kind of walk yourself through. So some of the personal journaling. If you scan the QR code, you'll be able to get access to this particular document, and it's question prompts, kind of to walk you through how you're handling your stress, and help you figure out how which the 4A model approaches to apply. It might be the most effective for you. Then we've got the workplace wellness guide, which is at the while the 4A model walkthrough is individual, the workplace wellness guide is actually for organizations to give you guys a leg up on how you can kind of take the reins in terms of encouraging wellness within your organization with your employees. So lots of opportunities there, and of course, all those things kind of point back to us if there's a way for us to serve you. If this session resonated with you at all, and you're ready to dive deeper, I personally would love to support you further. For organizations, we offer customized workplace stress management workshops. For teams and leaders, we can actually work one on one as well. If your company is looking to improve well being, hey, I'm your guy. We those that one on one stress resilience coaching really is that the personal growth, self leadership. Take the reins, empower you in ways that you may not have been aware of before, so that you can really show up as your best self and change the game. We have each of these engagements are personalized to you, help you manage stress, set boundaries, and build long-term resilience and reach your goals like a rock star. Listen, if you're interested, you can book a free 15-minute consultation with me to see how we can work together and if I'm a good fit for you. You can follow us at www.leadwellstrategic.com. As you see, as well as social media, primarily Instagram and Facebook at Lead Well Strategic, and LinkedIn as well. And if you're interested in bringing in, if you're interested in those any of the above, like I said, just reach out. Thank you so much for connecting with me today on this webinar. I hope that our time together added value to you. Once again, my name is Ian Williams, and I'm looking forward to hearing how you've gone from stress to success. Thank you.